This is the first of many short conversations around concepts relating to becoming and being a leader in our own lives. This is a project that my sister and I came up with called Already Leading, and it invites people to look at their lives and the choices that they're making where they can step into a space of being the director and the authentic leader in their communities and in their lives, and to basically live the life that they're passionate about. And so we wanted to start this off by just having a conversation between ourselves and around what that means. And so why don't we just start off with that question? Like, what does that mean to you, Molly, already leading?
Oh, well, I think the whole concept of collaborating is a big part of it. So what we're doing here, being able to work together and to listen to each other's ideas and to learn from each other with a healthy amount of curiosity. I think that is one part of leading, and probably a pretty important part. Do you want more? What I mean? I think there's so many elements to it. There's the concept of knowing who you are and knowing what your values are, and you're having goals and moving towards those and bringing others along with you.
So that first idea of the collaborating with curiosity, I just like that as a whole conversation. And I do think that at the very core, it's about knowing what's important to you and what you want to see in the world. So that piece is a big one. So like, in terms of what is important, why do you think people don't view themselves as able to kind of step into that role of being a true leader in their life or doing what's important to them?
Yeah, that's really interesting, and it's so true. Feels like we're constantly looking for leadership when we already have it in ourselves. We're looking for someone to tell us what to do or someone to approve of our ideas, and rather than just taking a step and taking a stand. So maybe there's like a societal implication there, but I don't know. I mean, what does stop us from making a bigger push towards bringing others along on our path, or having a joint, like a collective goal of where we want to move forward, or I don't know where I'm going here, so stop me.
I think the collective goal piece, again, it's collaborating with curiosity, this collective goal. I don't know, maybe we live more in this isolation with our ideas, when it comes to something that's not the wide path. I was watching that movie Jacob's Ladder, and it was talking about, actually the concept is that there's a narrow path that is like your personal highest expression of your life, and then there's the broad path, which is kind of like what everybody else is doing. And I think that the capacity to find and walk on that narrow path that is individualistically guided is takes a lot of courage, and also it might take more effort than people realize. But for me personally, there can be no greater joy than to step and walk on that path of what my heart's deepest desire is. Um, and it's so worth the process and effort. And so, you know, the part of this project being to help others be able to step onto that and walk in the highest expression of who they're meant to be in the world.
Yeah, I mean, that makes me think that I can totally envision that small path and like the beauty and the light that it brings, and then also, you know, the fear, right? The fact that even though there may not be anyone around anyway, like all of a sudden there's this concept of doing something alone. And I think the irony is that it brings you to a place where you're not as alone, right? There's kind of this mirage that we're part of this, you know, this collective already. But then when we look at what we're doing as individuals and that it doesn't align necessarily with our values, and that collective may not align with our values, and all of a sudden we realize that that's kind of just a perception that has been created to maybe I keep leaning I don't want to blame society because I mean that's kind of like an easy scapegoat, but there's something in ourselves that like is attracted to that concept of just like taking that path of just keep on going, right? Like make enough money to be able to support yourself and to have the things you need, and then that keeps like increasing as you know make more money. You keep wanting to meet new goals, and it's not based on necessarily any other goal or agenda outside of just like this predefined, like what I was thinking you were thinking of as like that really like wide path.
And I think that what you identified there was this kind of failure for a lot of people to really think about a bigger life, a bigger impact, a bigger influence, like a true vision of what their life could be and what they want their life to be versus kind of like a default mode of what's the next thing right in front of me on what I'm already doing and or what's presented as what I'm supposed to like or do or follow. And you know, I think that part of being fully fulfilled is that's why so many people who have so much still don't have fulfillment. It's really a matter of I achieved all of this, but I never really asked myself, what do I want? And I'm going to talk from my own personal experience that, getting a doctorate in neuroscience was supposed to be like this great, great achievement. And here I arrive at the end of that degree. And not that it wasn't, the process itself wasn't powerful and important, but at the end of that process, it was like, well, what where am I contributing? I'm still left with the exact same question, and it was and it took me quite a few years and my own personal experience of not knowing if I were like how long I had to live, having discovered a brain tumor, to really push me off that path and to force me to step onto something that was much more in alignment with what I wanted to see in the world. And I feel now compelled to help others take that very courageous step onto that path of becoming all that they're capable of being in the world and what their heart's desire wants to bring in. You know, I feel like if we all did more of that, we'd be living in such a beautiful place.
Yeah, I mean, I know this story obviously very well, and I've seen, you know, the transformation and admire, you know, the steps that you've taken. And I think there's definitely a complementary aspect of what I bring to the table around, you know, knowing what it feels like to not have any opportunities, and you know, the fear of being evicted, you know, and of not, you know, being able to pay my car payment, and, you know, feeling really you know, oppressed by a system that is so at the time, I mean, I couldn't really see past, you know, the day, or, you know, maybe the week, because I didn't know how I was going to pay my bills. And it's a very scary place to be. And I think it's one of the things that keeps people from moving towards their own purpose and goals, because it is one more hurdle, right? It's almost like if you're playing a video game, you know, you have to, you know, you have all of these obstacles, and you're going to focus on you're going to focus on the obstacle that's right in front of you, right? As opposed to, it doesn't have to be a video game. It could be, you know, anything. I was just playing some video games last weekend. So you're going to focus on the obstacle that's right in front of you, and you sometimes can't even see past that. So the concept of survival, right, on like the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right, getting past that can be really hard in the world we're in now. And I think especially now after COVID, and people being in different maybe positions in their employment, and it being a really good opportunity to find that path and to step onto it. But also having all of these distractions. So that is like I didn't necessarily win that battle either. Like, I did move into a corporate role to get myself out of that. But I'm very curious how that can be applied.
I think that you hit the nail on the head with the concept of survival. I mean, I say the vast majority of us, you know, live in that survival mode, and I need to make this decision, because if I don't, this XYZ will happen, and I won't be able to pay my bills, and I won't be able, and this is the only opportunity that's out there, because to survive, it's grasping at whatever is most easily available. And so I think what the conversation, for it to be most effective, to invite people not to quit their jobs, but to even just start entertaining ways of bringing to life what it is that they're really wanting, what their heart's desire is. Because I think people have just thrown it away because they said, well, I can't worry about that because I need to survive. But then it says, if they've given up on what they're really meant to do in the world. And that's, to me, that's the real tragedy of like feeling that sense of oppression. And that's the word that you use. And I believe that's an accurate word, you know. So how can we reawaken and help people connect to that without feeling like they need to quit their job or totally transform everything that they're doing in terms of their daily life, you know, because it really doesn't, you don't need to. You don't need to throw away everything you're doing to start fostering and nurturing that part of you that really wants to share and spread that gift that you have into the world.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I was thinking of the example today. I was browsing through gardening articles because it's spring. And, you know, Margaret Roach, she has a garden up here. And so her seasonality is similar to here in Connecticut. And she left finance to become a gardener. And I mean, that story is this example of like being able to having the means to like really say, okay, I can't do this anymore, and I can do this. Like I know it's going to be there are going to be some sacrifices, and David White also did this, you know, to become a poet, or to he was a poet and to be a poet. So I think that there is that example, and then there's also what you're talking about right now, which is becoming more aware and surfacing these passions and these desires that are there, that may be dormant, you know, they may be hidden, and bringing them to life.
And I think that, as a first place to start, and part of the goals of these conversations is not just to be some talking heads, but to like give people permission to like start doing activities, bringing some of these actions into their lives that will help inspire them to see themselves as leaders and be able to connect to their passions. So I think that this might be a good piece to bring for that aspect of what am I really passionate about. So why don't we come up with an exercise for that, and we'll leave people with that for our first conversation.
Mhm. Yeah, on the fly, just come up with an exercise. I get paid to do this usually. I have more time. I would say, yeah, I mean, first of all, I like that concept of posing that question to yourself, you know, first, just like getting a piece of paper and a pen and saying like, what are the things that make me really happy? You know, what are the things that maybe I'm doing today that make me happy, or some things that I used to do in my past, looking at even your childhood, maybe even going back to your childhood. So that's pretty broad, but that's because I'm handing it back to you
That's a good
to
question.
expand.
I mean, that's a good activity. Like, start off with simply making a list of what makes you happy. What are what are the things that my soul is longing to experience in the world is the phrase I always use. And so I would suggest that for those who choose to participate, spend this next week writing down every day at least 30 things that you desire to do. And they could be as simple as making soap, or and that's maybe not that simple, but I did this activity once for like about a year. And I wrote down every day what my soul was desiring to do, and I kept writing down making soap. And so eventually I did start making soap, and I'm doing soap making with the kids this week. But you never know, those things that seem like, oh, that's not really that important, that's not a big vision, you don't know how they actually may evolve. If you are desiring to do it, there's something in you that's calling you to do that. And also just the experience of having some more fun and joy. Maybe you even do some of the things on the list. If not, just the practice of writing that list will be important.
Yeah.
What do you desire to do? But what do you desire to see also, I think could be part of that list. Like, to me, community kept coming up every day on the list. I want loving community. I want loving community. I want loving community. What the heck is that anyway? But it's a soul's calling. It's just tuning in. Anything else you could think of to add for the list?
No, I love that antenna. I like that concept of tuning in. Like put up your antennas, you know, and things that are out there that feel good. Maybe even something that you haven't thought of, but when you think of it, you become joyful. Like that concept of delight. You know, that's something that can really help
Yeah,
find the pathway.
maybe have a little notebook with you so that when you get inspired, you could write it right down there. This idea of like tuning in. Absolutely. So that's your homework for this week. Tune in to your heart. Start to connect to your passion and who you're meant to be in this world. So until next time, leaders.
Thanks.